We are live. Welcome back to the Vol Talk podcast. I'm once again joined today by special guest Dakota. I am Austin. Typically, you see Blake on the other screen. He is not available for this show, but he will be back next Tuesday for the Florida preview. But today, Dakota, we are reviewing the New Mexico State game. We saw that game yesterday. We watched that together. Not an exciting game. This time next year, that game will be an SEC game, so it'll make it much more exciting, I think, the rest of the season. But we're also today going over the Boo Carter situation. He was not at the game yesterday. We have a lot to say about that. And then Bama took an L yesterday. We love talking
They did.
about Bama taking L's, so that should be fun to get into. And then we're also going to be discussing Nico, and he found a way out of the Ohio State game with a little concussion. So we got a lot to say about that as well. So it's a jam-packed show, man. How you doing today?
Doing good, man. Doing good. We got the dub yesterday. Some other things happened that were comical, which always helps. But yeah, ready to get into the meat of it.
Same here. Before we get into the meat of it, if y'all would mind, please hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. We are closing in on 1,000 subscribers, which is a big number. Appreciate all the support on the channel, and the likes and subscribes go a long way. And also join the conversation. We're live today, and I think Vols fans are going to have a lot to say about some of the things we're talking about, so it should be fun. But let's go and get into it, man. Let's get into the game review. I honestly, dude, these games don't excite me. I'll be honest. I don't have a lot to say about this game. I've got a couple things to say, but not as much as typical. We got the job done, obviously. We didn't cover. The line in it was like 41.5, I believe. But what'd you take away from us winning against New Mexico State 42-9?
Yeah, I mean, we got the job done, but on the preview we talked about wanting to see the offense be a bit more explosive and really be more in sync, passing game, running game, everything. And honestly, it just wasn't there, which is a little disappointing. You mentioned it, we didn't cover. And Aguilar, I think the key takeaway from this was Aguilar having a couple of rough plays in there again. Coming back a little bit to his roots like he was at App State with the turnover worthy plays, just kind of putting the ball in harm's way. Still had a few really good plays in there, like the deep one to Brazel, but a few, the one interception was terrible. um,
It
and
was.
offensively, it just maybe it kind of gave the sense of a type of game where like they're looking ahead. Which, to be honest, if you're going to do that to New Mexico State, that's fine. If you're actually going to show up in the swamp next week, then I will excuse what felt like a little bit of a dud from the offense yesterday. And then defensively, man, we gave up 340 yards to one of the worst offenses in college football, which doesn't feel great. Um, some guys were not out there though, which is noteworthy. You mentioned Boo, but it looks like Josephs and Jordan Ross both didn't play. So to have been able to still, for the most part, keep things in check, hold them under 9 points, bend but don't break. It's the least we've given up on the season, so that's nice to see. Definitely noteworthy, but I don't know, man. It's hard to be excited for the game, and then
It
it
is.
just it seemed like we had the pick six in there, which was nice, but like it just didn't seem like I don't know. We did not feel like a contending team playing against a group of five school.
Yeah, no, we didn't. It just, I don't know. It was uninspired. I wasn't super amped for the game. Of course, I'll watch every Tennessee football game until the day I die. But it wasn't just not a game I was super hyped about. And I don't know. Yeah, they were okay. Like the defense was fine, I guess. Ty Redmond made that absolutely beautiful interception. That was one of the favorite plays of the day. That was an incredible play by him. And then you mentioned the pick six as well. And Aguilar, you're right, man. Aguilar hasn't been at his best. I feel like the last couple of weeks, really since the Kentucky game where he absolutely balled out. So I don't know, man. Sometimes he just doesn't see safeties. But overall, he's still elevating the offense, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just wasn't as dominant as a performance as I think we were hoping in this game.
For sure. And again, I hope it's just because they're looking ahead. If it's because you've got your eyes set on the swamp, Lynn said. I hope
Yeah.
it's that.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
see.
I agree. I hope it's that as well. I'm gonna catch up on the chat here real quick, Dakota. A couple people are joining us in the chat. Shout out to Rachel, Blake's wife. Appreciate you watching, Rachel. And then Jace, what's up, Jace? And then Lynn in the chat taking shot at Bama's fans. Believe me, Lynn, we're gonna be getting into that. We were watching Bama. Don't worry, we were watching. And listen, here's the thing with Alabama. I'll say this just real quick before we get into it later. Two things can be true, Dakota. Your team can suck and our team can suck. Yeah, you beat us, but
True.
I don't know. I don't know if Bama is all they're cut out to be this year. So we'll see. But yeah, appreciate y'all join us, join the live chat. We again we got a lot to talk about today. But we're gonna continue on with the game review. Quarterback play outside of Aguilar. That's one thing. I think that's an interesting discussion because we finally got a big enough lead right in the game to put in the backups. It took us until late in the third quarter, but we finally got a big enough lead to get in the backups, which is unfortunate. I think we all wanted them in there sooner. I wanted them in there at halftime personally, but we didn't have a big enough lead yet. And then they came in, and Dakota, I feel like all season long, man, Merklinger and even McIntyre, but especially Merklinger, when he's running the offense, it's just not as efficient. And it's noteworthy to say he's not in there with the starters, but he's also playing New Mexico State. Like it really doesn't matter if you're in there with a backup SEC offensive line; they should still be better than anything New Mexico State has to offer. What did you see from the backup quarterback play, man?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's we were talking about it earlier. Like the offense does just seem to fizzle out once the backups come in. Like without Aguilar out there, and benefit of the doubt to them a little bit is that, and I feel like this is more of a this year thing. Is Heupel seems to just dial everything back when those guys come out. Like it's like run, pass on third down, punt. Like that is just the script whenever we have the backups in. So it limits their opportunities in general. Would love to see him because you're getting you. I mean, to be honest, these are moments of you trying to figure out what the future holds for for this team. And so I don't think New Mexico State's going to get annoyed if you're still throwing the ball a good bit. But in the limited opportunities that they've had, I've just not been overly impressed. And both of them are. I mean, McIntyre is very young still, obviously being a freshman, but like both of them are so small, man,
Yeah,
so small. Like body type wise,
especially
they don't look like
McIntyre.
yeah, like they're built to survive SEC football right now. But yeah, it's been a little disappointing because you would expect again against this level of competition, it doesn't really matter who's out there with you. Like the offense should be efficient. Your reps in practice should matter. Like you should be able to hit open throws. The offense is still schematically superior regardless of who's out there, especially against a group of five team. And I just think it's not been impressive. Looking to the future of next season, I think leaves a little bit of doubt.
Yeah, I agree. Matt's joined us in the chat. Appreciate you joining, Matt. I agree, man. I think I just listen. Merklinger has been here since 2023, December
Yeah.
2023, and I just don't think he's gotten substantially better, which is a little bit concerning, especially for next season. And we're looking ahead. I mean, there's just not much to talk about with this game. I feel like, dude, there's just the nitty gritty details really don't matter in a game like this. Yeah, Matt's saying Blake looks different. Blake is not with us today. He's going to be back for the Florida preview on Tuesday, but special guest Dakota is joining in on the show. He's been on the show a lot. If you're a longtime listener, he was on the season preview and then the playoff shows last year. So appreciate Dakota joining us today. But yeah, Blake will be back eventually. But anyway, going back to Merklinger and his play, dude, that's just I don't know, man. It feels like at this point he should be a serviceable backup, and I just don't trust him if he has to come in a big time game. I really, really don't, which is a little bit concerning. And yeah, so like the future is like, who is it going to be next year? Because ideally, Merklinger and McIntyre are still on the roster if they don't transfer, and then you're bringing in Faison, and out of those three, it's like I don't think anyone set themselves apart this year. And then you have Faison, the true freshman, next year. So I don't know, man. It's gonna be interesting going forward.
Yeah, and I think we can talk a little bit more on the Nico thing. We'll touch on him later, but like imagining this season with Nico instead is something we've talked about a lot. But I'm also to that point now of imagining this season with Merklinger out there with what minimal play we've seen from him. And
Yeah.
I don't know if we're sitting at 7-3, man. Like I don't.
No.
Aguilar has, he's had some turnover worthy issues lately, but like without his high end play, we don't win a lot of the games this season. And if Merklinger was the guy out there, it would have been hard to be super excited about this season. It feels a little bit, and I don't want to like comp them to those guys, but it's a little reminiscent of the time when we had like Maurer and Shrout on the bench, and like they were competing to try to be the next guy, and like neither of them really showed anything that made you really excited about what they could do. And yeah, I saw Herb's chat comment. I would agree with that. Whether it's Faison or we hit the portal again,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's one of these two guys. I don't.
And I think it's hard to evaluate McIntyre, but Merklinger in
Yeah.
particular, he has never looked comfortable in the offense ever. And again, he's been here longer than everyone on the roster as far as quarterback is concerned. Like he was here over a year longer than Joey was, and Joey immediately come in and Joey's more experienced and he's had game reps, but I don't know, man. It is a little bit concerning, and I gotta agree with Herb. I like either McIntyre takes a huge step and he gets the size because we all see it. I mean, McIntyre in particular, he's 6'6" and under 200 pounds. That's not going to play in this conference. Either that happens and he gains the size, or I think it's Portal or Faison. So that's an interesting offseason discussion, I think, down the road. Just real quick before we go on to the next topics, Dakota, what did overall, because you were giving me some stats before the show, how did you feel about the defense? Like, do you think it was a decent performance? Obviously hard to take away a lot from it considering they're playing one of the worst offenses in the country, but what did you think of the defense performance?
I know we've ragged on Tim Banks a lot, but like this was one of the worst offenses in college football. Okay.
Correct.
Like people need to reckon it was one of the worst in college football. And I know we had some guys out, but like they were 8 of 19 on third down, like 42% on third down. They were better on third down than us. They had more first downs than we did. They had 340 yards of offense for an offense that averaged only like 300 a game. Like as an SEC team, it's kind of like the high end of those games when they outperform their average should be when they're playing lower level group of 5 teams or they play an FCS school. It shouldn't be happening when they play an SEC team.
Yeah.
And that's the worrying part there.
Yeah.
It's like, and I went back and looked, and like we were comparing a little bit against other teams that are supposed to get are contending in like top programs like in Indiana and Ohio State. And like they're giving up less than 200, sometimes less than 100 yards to teams like this. And so it's concerning, man. Like you should not be giving up. And it doesn't, I don't want to hear too, like with the backups out there, because we're just talking about depth on offense. Your SEC,
same thing.
I think it was one of our friends yesterday said like, or maybe you did that, the worst player on our roster should be the best player on theirs.
Yes.
Like, they just should. And
That's
so
a
there's
fact.
no excuse when our backup defenders are out there who are 4 stars or better, can't stop New Mexico State. And at the end of the day, it's a combination of potentially development issues or schematic, but it's a little concerning to see, especially with how this season has gone, our defense kind of getting run through for the most part, outside of a couple turnovers and some bend but don't break 4th down stops. Like it's a little concerning.
And the issue is that the bend but don't break thing is nice and all, but you really can't rely on it. And like, yeah, sure, it works against New Mexico State, but as we've seen, Dakota, this year, is that it doesn't work against Arkansas or Oklahoma or Alabama. It just didn't work against those teams, and that's been the issue. And yeah, I agree with you, man. I don't think 9 points was indicative of what our defense looked like yesterday. I don't. And honestly, if you're comparing it to last year's defense, which is the best defense we've had in a long time here, we would shut out teams like this last year. Exactly. And that just hasn't happened. So yeah, man, I don't know. I don't think this game has answered any of our defensive questions. Like the defense has been pretty much the same all year long, and that's been bad. If we're just being honest, it's not been good this year. The one thing I will say is I got 2 points. I think the defense has talent on it. I do. I think it has talent. But in our defense and in the coaching staff's defense, it's a young group. It's a very young group. We have one of the youngest rosters, and that gives me hope. I hope we can retain the talents that's there, because guys like Ty Redmond or Perlot, like, they're going to get better. Those guys are going to be stars down the road. They're true freshmen right now, but I think they will be stars. But I still don't think it excuses the year, man. I don't. I don't think it excuses the entire season, because it has been bad pretty much all year long.
Yeah, and we touched on it on the preview as well, where like with McCoy and Gibson being out, you know, before we knew what Colton Hood was going to end up becoming, the secondary was a problem. You know, we were worried about it. And Ty Redmond has been thrown into the fire, man.
He
Like
has.
being a
And
true freshman corner, and he's had some rough moments, but that kid's future is bright. Like
so
people need to
bright.
recognize corner is one of the most volatile positions to play in football, and having to do that in the SEC as a true freshman, and at his size, man, he's got like the
He's
Richard Sherman build, the length, like he is going to be good. But so there's obviously the growing pains there, but like there's just other spots at like safety and at linebacker where we have guys who've been on the roster for a while that just didn't ever take a step forward and have been kind of liabilities, you know, like a Turrentine, for example. And I just you brought it up previously on like we should have hit the portal for linebacker and whatnot. So, you know, there's some excuse in terms of the talent and the fact that going into the season, you know, literally the two guys who were supposed to be on paper the starting corners, which to be fair, we knew McCoy wouldn't be out there.
Yeah, we did.
But they're not here. But they weren't here, and so you did have to adjust and switch it up. But like
But they
it's
were
just
good. That's the problem, though,
that's the
that they
thing.
they
And
were
then they still
good.
played, especially Colton Hood, who's like earning
Yes.
himself into like first round contention from a draft perspective, and it's still not enough. It's just that's the thing that I think summarizes this season and last, because we've had guys there's a legitimate chance that we have 3 defenders taken in the first round. Like
Yeah.
that's possible with Josephs, Hood, and McCoy. And McCoy's not even out there, but like I think what it's indicative of is that the talent has outweighed the coaching the past 2 seasons. Because last year's team was just loaded with some talent, like guys like Omar, the guys who transferred in, like McCoy and Norman Lott, and then we had JPJ. And I think it's almost been in spite of the coaching, where like
Yeah.
schematically, and we've pointed out numerous times where it's like just soft coverage at the worst moment, or mug blitz into a coverage that was on third, and like just
Yeah.
bad
It's
moments like
just
that are coaching related, not talent wise. And I think that's kind of indicative of what I think we've learned over the last 2 seasons.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And that's been the frustrating thing, is that I actually think this team in particular, overall, offensively and defensively, I think it's been one of the most talented teams under Heupel. I think
Good.
it was
Yeah.
overall, pound for pound, more talented than last year's team. I do. I
Yeah.
think the upgrade at quarterback and the upgrade at receiver has
And the offensive
really,
line play.
yeah, exactly. Offensive line play, exactly. And the pass rush has been pretty comparable. It's just, I think the talent level has been there, but the results haven't been. And so, yeah, I mean, we'll get into a lot of these discussions in the offseason, the season review, you know, and I think a lot of Vols fans feel like they have to defend Heupel. I want Heupel as our coach. But I think he can be better. I think there's ways to be better. And you know, I think a couple of these losses this year, you could say, are partially to coaching. Because I think we had the talent this year, and that's been the frustrating thing. Specifically, Tim Banks. I think I'm to the point, and people may disagree with me. I think Tim Banks, we have to move on in the offseason. I think it's just been this year, there's been pretty much no positives. And I think that continued in this game. It's like a game where we're literally talking about on the preview, saying how this is one of the worst FBS offenses in the entire country, and we give up 300 yards. And
Yep.
and it's not like where our offense is scoring every drive either, Dakota. It's not like, oh man, the defense is real tired because the offense is using high tempo and they're going down to score every drive, so the defense is out there a lot. That really didn't happen in this game.
No, and you know, we've talked about it a lot. We're like, I think we know what Heupel is for the most part, and I have zero reason right now to not want him to be our coach. None. But I think everybody in this chat, everybody that watches this video would agree that the next 2 games are really going to be what determines fans' perspective on a lot.
That is
Because
correct.
yeah, I think collectively we are all probably kind of getting over the Tim Banks stuff and ready to move on there. But I mean, these next 2 games are really what's going to determine how fans feel about this coaching staff in its totality. And I don't know. And right now, there's not a lot to suspect that we're going to be favored in Gainesville, but like we've
We are.
not been shown anything to prove that we can win that game yet.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that it's hard to say right now. There's no reason to ever for people that are calling for Heupel's job and stuff. It's kind of ridiculous. But like Tim Banks fully deserves the flack he's gotten, but these next
He
2
does.
weeks, that's going to determine a lot for this fan
Yeah,
base.
and I think it can cool down my tone too. I'll be honest. If
Yeah.
you finish strong
Yeah.
and the performance is there against both these teams, we are more talented than Florida and Vanderbilt, and we should win both games. And we are better coached than, I'll say, Florida. I don't think it's definitive that we're better coached than Vanderbilt, but I think it's at least comparable. So both of those games, and that game's at home, both of those games
Yes.
we will be favored by Vegas in, and we should win. So I think the way you finish the season, that's another thing. Like, this is one reason I have a little bit of an issue with the new playoff era. And I was kind of talking to you about this yesterday, dude. It's like, I hate the fact that part of me feels like the season's over when in past years, I would be hyped for the Florida game no matter what. And I'm starting to get in that mindset right now. Like, I'm like, it's Florida week. Like, it's Florida hate week. Like, this is a huge rivalry game. This is a game growing up as a kid that I always wanted to win. Like, this game meant so much. But I feel like the playoff era has taken away from that a little bit.
And I completely agree because I mean, think about it. Even 3 years ago, when we were sad that we missed the playoffs, like it was brutal. It was devastating. We were hurt, but like we went to a New Year's Six bowl, and that meant a lot to
It
us.
did.
Like, we were
Yes.
thrilled, but you went to it. Like we were
Yeah.
thrilled about that.
Yes.
And now you're right. The 12-team era, it does kind of suck because it's like the same reason it's great is the same reason it sucks, is that like there's something to play for 12 teams. But if you're not one of those 12, it's like, congratulations, you're going to the Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing else really too valuable. And
Exactly.
to your point, though, Florida that changes everything for us. Like having
It
that
does.
game still left on our schedule can change a lot for this season. And between that and Vanderbilt having the opportunity to knock little brother out of the playoff contention would feel
it'd
pretty
be
nice
nice.
in the year.
Yeah.
But depending on how those games go, because like even if it'd be still pretty rough if we beat Florida would be. I don't want to take anything away from beating Florida, but if we then lose to Vanderbilt, go 8-4, and that would be losing 2 games in Neyland for the first time since 2020, maybe 21.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since we lost multiple games in Neyland, so that would be a brutal, outcome regardless. So it's
Because
it's gonna be an
that's
interesting
been-
couple weeks.
That's been Heupel's calling card, is he's been like unbeatable in Neyland. Yeah, and there's so much. I feel like a lot of this is off-season discussion, but man, it's on my heart, so I gotta say it. I gotta respond to not anyone in our chat or anything like that. Our chat's full of actual smart people, but people on Twitter who are full of a lot of not smart people are saying things like, well, we lost to 3 top 10 teams. And the only reason I push back on that, Dakota, is because did you watch the games against the top 10 teams?
Yeah.
Like, what did your eyes say? Did your eyes say that we belonged in those games? Because mine did. When I watched us in Neyland versus Georgia at the game, and in Neyland versus Oklahoma, I'm sitting there thinking, like, why did we lose those games? Like, we were the better team, I think, in both of those football games, yet we lost. So you have to ask the question, well, why? And part of that is, yes, Max Gilbert missing a kick, and actually missing a kick in Oklahoma game too. So, but I don't know. I can't just give us an excuse because, we lost to 3 top 10 teams, because really we were as good, if not better, than those teams.
For sure. And it is still like, because it's almost like easy to forget it, just how the season has gone now, where to your point, because of the playoff era, like feels like we've got nothing left to play for fully from like a full season perspective. Obviously individual games still matter. But yeah, we were literally a field goal away from beating Georgia for the first time in almost a decade.
Oh,
And the
would've been
season
so
entire,
nice.
like if we're sitting at 8-2 right now, everything else goes the exact same. We're sitting at 8-2 right now with how the CFP and AP voters tend to love us in the SEC. Like we're in playoff contention sitting right now with 2 chances to get into it. So the season outlook can literally be defined by a kick, which is depressing to think about. But you're right. And the
That's
thing is,
very
I know
depressing.
it is basically off-season discussion, but like to your point, when you started this off, is like next year it's 9 SEC games, man.
It
so
is.
the margin of error is thinner, and it is going to be tougher to get there.
It's what makes this game fascinating, man. Like, imagine
Yeah.
this New Mexico State Aggies game, which is basically essentially a bye week. I mean, we have several players like Josephs and Ross literally resting, basically, it seems, for this
Load
game.
management.
Next year, it's going to be like playing A&M or playing a
The
team
other
like
Aggies.
Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, the real Aggies. Exactly, the real Aggies. And imagine doing that after losing to Oklahoma. I mean, things can fall off the wagon quick, man.
Yeah.
So that's something to watch out for next year. We got Oreo Puppy Dog and my wife Callie join us in the chat. We were sloppy again, been sloppy since the Georgia game. I think that's a very fair assessment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like it's been the story of blunders that weren't forced. Man, that's been the story of our season, I think. Like, and I said this a lot, but again, it's on my heart. 300 yards in the first half against Oklahoma, Dakota, against that Brent Venables tough defense, and you have 10 points to show for it. That doesn't feel like something Oklahoma's doing. That feels like something that Tennessee's doing to prevent themselves from winning games. So, but shout out to Oklahoma because you beat Bama, and I appreciate that. We'll talk about that later. But I mean, I think overall, to finish off the discussion on the game preview or review, excuse me, there are positives, right? The positives are
Yeah.
if if they play to their potential the rest of the season, we can be at Florida for the first time since 2003 in Gainesville in the Swamp, and we can knock Vanderbilt out of the playoffs. And, even though we don't care about the Music City Bowl, we can end up going 10 wins, 10-3, whatever. And I guess if you want to look at the preseason predictions, it's like right there. I don't like to do that because I actually watch the games. But so it's like, okay, and it's a young team. So there are some positives, I think, coming out of this game, Dakota.
For sure. I completely agree. And I'd say the other thing is the offensive line play again has been phenomenal. They deserve a lot of credit. I mean,
They
I think
do.
even on Aguilar's pick, he stood in the pocket for like 6 seconds before he threw it to that safety. But he had all day to throw back there. So that's something positive too as we continue on the season that is still getting better with with Sanders out there, the O line that's shifted around a good bit. But yeah, you're right. I mean, beating Florida and beating Vandy would be huge. And then even though, we just, talking negatively about a bowl game that isn't as important, like there's a solid chance if we do win out, especially that bowl game is against another team that barely missed the playoff.
True.
And if we go out there and beat like a Miami or a Georgia Tech or something like that, that feels great to me. That shows like, okay, we finished the season strong, won against a good other out of conference opponent like that. That gives us some positivity going into the offseason, especially.
I totally agree with that assessment, dude. Matt in the chat says if we beat Florida, all is forgiven. I won't say, me personally, I won't say all, but I agree with you, man. I mean, Matt, some of these young fans may not realize it, but like the Florida game means so much. Like it's going away after this year annually. We'll start playing them biannually, but this was the game for me, man. Tim Tebow, Eric Berry clashing, dude. Like I remember those games growing up, and it felt like there were so many of those games that we just let slip, man. So many. And it's just so many winnable games against Florida that we haven't won over the years. So it would definitely be a boost on the season. I've said all year that we haven't had a marquee moment this year, like one moment I can look back on and be like, wow, that was an awesome moment this football season. If we beat Florida in the Swamp, especially if we dominate them, that will be the moment. That will be the moment I look back on the 2025 Vols and what Aguilar did and be thankful for it, because it's like that's a huge thing to win in Gainesville.
Yeah, to get that monkey off the back in the last season of playing them every year would be it would help a lot. To Matt's point, it'd be pretty sweet.
It would be pretty sweet. And I think it also gives us momentum heading into next year. Like, I think we have a ton of talent on this roster. The recruiting's getting better and better. And I think that momentum in the offseason would help a lot. Well, that's us being positive, okay? But there are more negatives, Dakota, right? There are more negatives. And one of the negatives is yesterday, our young, talented star cornerback / safety hybrid, Boo Carter, was not at the game. He was not at the game. And at first it was just injury, right? Like it was just announced, okay, Boo's not playing. He's just hurt. But it turns out he just wasn't there. And by the sound of it, by what Heupel said in the post-game presser, it sounded like they told him to stay home. Heupel and the coaching staff told Boo, why don't you just stay home? Why don't you just sit this one out, bud? Um, this situation has reached its boiling point to me, Dakota. It
Yes.
really has. Funny enough, dude, I was just telling you before the show, the last live show me and you did together without Blake, we talked about this situation heading into the season and saying how, oh man, Boo and his mom are talking about transferring, whatever. And then Boo's mom has continued to post on social media and kind of add fuel to the flame when it really didn't need to be there. Like at the points that she was adding fuel to the flame, Dakota, it felt like, okay, Tennessee still has a chance to compete. Your son's playing and making an impact. What's the problem? Like, what continues to
Yeah.
be the problem? But now at this point, with Boo basically being told to stay home, again, it's reached its boiling point, man. And I think he will. I don't think we'll see him ever again in a Tennessee jersey. That's my prediction at this point.
No, I love that. And for those that haven't heard it, I have the quote pulled up from Heupel in the presser where he said, "At the end of the day, there's a standard that you have to meet to be in that locker room. He was not out on the field with us." So, to your point, it had nothing to do with football. And yeah, we talked about this. What was it, like 3 months ago now, before the season started? And I think I'm in the same boat where, to be honest with you, if I am the coaching staff, like he's done. Like you're
Yep.
just done for me. It's kind of rare, he think Boo Carter's had some great play for the Vols. He has. But I feel like even watching him on the field, there's been a lot of either boom or bust, where it's like he's either making a really good tackle or something, or he's getting burnt on a shallow route on a third down, or he's muffing a punt. And he's not as talented or athletic as Travis Hunter, but
No.
that's what he thinks he is in his mind. And I think at the end of the day, like, it's rare that there's moments where guys have off the field issues like this and recover from that. And like suddenly they're not an issue anymore. Cause like even in our history of like with Nico kind of doing it last year, Jeremy Banks was a good example of that. Like there's rare, Jawan's probably the exception, and that's just because like Butch hated him. But there's rare occasions where a guy is an off the field cancer and suddenly stops being one. And the reason I think he is, and this is what will also separate him from never being Travis Hunter, is he doesn't care about football, man.
He
Like,
doesn't.
I don't think the kid cares about football. And Travis Hunter was giving his all. Like, he wanted to be on both sides of the ball because the dude loves football. Like, he wants to help his team win. Boo Carter just wants the glory of being out there and being a part of, his moments to shine. And I think at the end of the day, that's what started this all before the season. Him and his mom wanting more for Boo, not what's best for Tennessee or the football team. It's all about him, and I just don't think there's any coming back from that.
There's not. It's over. The situation's done. And they need to rip the Band-Aid off. I think you have to get that kind of cancer out of your locker room. You do. And how much of it is Boo versus his mom? I don't know. There's a part of me that feels bad for Boo in his situation
Yeah.
because he has had bad guidance, very clearly has had bad guidance, and is guided by someone who is motivated likely by money and fame and not by
Yep.
the love of the sport and actually being good and having a legacy. And that's the thing though. The funny thing is, and you bring up a great point. His talent's not outweighing the BS right now. It's just not.
Yeah.
Like, had Eric Berry done this, Dakota, well, maybe it's different. It's Eric freaking Berry. He's a Hall of Fame player. But dude, Boo is average at best. Like, I'm sorry, and I know he was a fan favorite for a little bit, but I have never bought into the Boo Carter hype like a lot of our fans have. He just hasn't made the impact. And it has been a lot of boom or bust with Boo. I mean, Blake and I were just talking about on the Oklahoma review how he's given up on plays and not actually running out plays. I mean, that happened last week. And I think it's just time for the coaching staff to rip the Band-Aid off. But going back to Eric Berry too, because it's like, that's the difference that's what makes guys good versus great, by the way. It is the intangibles. That's why you never would have seen something like this from a player like Eric Berry. He was a Hall of Famer on the field and off the field. Boo Carter is neither. He will be neither. And if he does go to Colorado, like we have in the overlay, enjoy the 3-9 season. That is now the standard at Colorado. Now that you don't have a generation, because Travis Hunter is a generational player, Dakota. Okay, and there's a lot of discussion about how good was Travis Hunter, and was it just the snaps or whatever. Let me just tell you, I believe from people I trust, people who know football, Travis Hunter was a generational player. He was an elite receiver, and he was an elite cornerback. And what he did was unheard of. And Boo Carter, dude, he's not even playing offense, and he's not an elite cornerback. Imagine if you added offense to his play. He would become a worse cornerback, and I doubt he's just some savant at wide receiver. I just doubt it. And to your point, because Travis Hunter, a lot like Eric Berry, high character guy. You can just tell by
Mhm.
the way he speaks and everything. He's a high character guy. Boo Carter has not shown any of those traits. He just hasn't. Ever since he's come back to the team, Dakota, because again, when we covered this in the offseason, remember when he was like being eased back into it and he was back in
Mhm.
practice? Every time I
Not
saw
dressed out.
picture
Yeah.
or videos, the attitude just wasn't there. He just didn't seem like he wanted to be here. He seemed like he was going through the motions. And for a guy who's average, that's not worth the headache. Get him out of here.
100%. And Rick brought up a really good point too on the Travis Hunters that nobody worked harder than him, which is
Exactly.
true. Because to be like he is gifted beyond belief, like the athleticism and talent he has, but to become elite at two positions like he did took a work ethic that no one has, like an Eric Berry has. And there has
Yes.
been literally negative evidence that Boo Carter has that in terms of, to your point, the way he was acting when being eased back in and not using that as an opportunity to seem to learn, from his mistakes and also just be present with the defense, learning, growing, being ready to come back and immediately make an impact. And it's disappointing, man, because like you mentioned, he was a fan favorite. But like, the Jeremy Banks thing is the one that comes to mind heavily because, people can, go with the Connor Stallions route if they want to blame the South Carolina game on that.
Yeah.
But the Jeremy Banks controversy
Oh,
leading into that game is the thing that always stuck with me because, there was the moments like when we lost to Texas A&M and like what spiraled after that in 16 when you had like the Jalen Hurd stuff and Daniel Bro, all the stuff that was happening then. But like with Banks in 2022, it's I don't think it can be overstated how much that's probably impacting the locker room. Like there's an aspect
yes.
of it we don't see. And if this is the second time now, basically, that the team has had to witness Boo do something like this and his mom being vocal on social media, like there's no way it's not impacting that whole locker room. And specifically like the corner room, the secondary, like when they're having to be around him even more and watching him still get kind of like at moments where you just kind of get excused for it, right? Like he was that way at the beginning of the season. He still gets his job back, and these other guys are working harder than him every day. Like it's just there's no way it hasn't negatively impacted the locker room. And at
There's
this
no way.
point, it's done. Like that you have been too much of a cancer to this football team to be able to justify still being here.
Correct. And you bring up the Jeremy Banks situation. It's also very comparable to the Nico
Yeah,
situation. It's incredibly
correct.
comparable. I think the Nico situation is and Boo's situation is one of the big problems with college football right now, man.
Yeah.
It's one of the side effects of the NIL era. It really is. And getting the parents involved and being heavily involved and earning money because Boo's not I just don't think Boo's mature enough to get big checks. I just don't. And I don't know, man. It's an interesting discussion. I got to shout out Backflip Spaghetti. He made a great point in the chat. He's disappointed in Boo, but he
Mhm.
still hopes he figures it out. And I agree with that assessment because there is a part of me that and I started with this that I feel bad for the kid because I really think the big issue is the parent. The parent's supposed to lead you in the right direction and he's clearly not getting that leadership. He just isn't. And he's a young kid and he should be guided correctly. But he's not. And again, this goes all the way back to him getting the same agent as Ace Bailey, man. And remember, Ace Bailey, if y'all don't remember, we talked about this in the preseason that Ace Bailey's is the guy who got drafted by the Utah Jazz and looked devastated. He looked devastated to be drafted, Dakota. And I don't first of all, me personally, I could never understand a guy like that. Like if I got that life-changing opportunity, I would be overwhelmed with emotion. But for two, you just look back at all the NFL draft moments over the year, even the NBA draft moments, and it's like dude, most guys when they get drafted, it's a blessing. It's a total blessing. But that kid was totally entitled, man. He didn't want to go to the team that he was drafted to, and Boo went to his agent, and that just says a lot, man. It just says a lot.
It does, and the 2 points you brought up, like the money aspect too. It's like it's tough, especially for a kid like Boo Carter, where like I don't know for sure, but I think it's safe to say he probably didn't have like the best, you know, financial situation, whatever, growing up. So like when these moments now happen even earlier in a kid's life, they're obviously it's going to change things pretty drastically for them. But when they're kind of molded by a parent that is a bit flawed, I would say, in terms of the perspective on what matters the most and the values that have been taught, it makes it even more difficult. And then to your point too with Nico, like it's so far too the prime examples we've had to witness already at Tennessee, and I'm sure others have started to happen we're not as privy to, is that it's been guys who can't justify this type of headache. Like people
Yeah.
who these players, like your caliber is not good enough to justify acting like this, and that's a problem.
It is, dude. And the funny thing is, how could you not learn from the Nico situation? Listen, Tennessee's not going to the playoff, whatever. But at the end of the day, and we will have long offseason discussions about this. I'm sure a lot of clips as well. But if you compare what happened with Joey Aguilar, him coming here, and what happened to Nico at UCLA, like really, that's Boo's heading down that route, right? You're
Yeah.
you're heading down the route of going to a team that's completely irrelevant, sucking, and your career going in the complete dump. And Nico has no future in the NFL, Dakota. He has no NFL future. Boo is headed down this route. And for what? And for what? It makes no sense to me whatsoever, especially after having this example on your own team. Like you witnessed it with your own eyes. You played with both quarterbacks. I know you know the difference. Like you see the difference every day in practice. Yet you still thought, you know what? It's probably smart for me to head down that route opposed to the Joey Aguilar route. It just makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. And it's just these parents and these players trying to go after short-term gain over
Mhm.
long-term gain, man. It's just if Boo Carter had went to Tennessee, which he should have. He's from Tennessee. He
Yep.
was an elite player out of high school. He should be here. If he had went here, put his head down and worked, he could have become an elite player, Dakota. He could have under the right development, the right amount of time. He had I think he had the talent to become an elite player, which means you would have been a top overall draft pick, and maybe not first round, but at least second round. You would have made long-term life-changing money. Now you have completely thrown that out the window. And again, I ask, for what? Why?
It's a very good question. And I don't know if it's a combination of like delusion or ego that leads them down this path. Because again, it's like your path to success was clearly written out in front of you here for both Nico and Boo. And whether it was delusion or ego of thinking that you are, like if you asked them, like, do you think you're better than Travis Hunter? I kind of would feel like he would say yes right now, or at
Yes.
least his mom would. And
Oh,
that right
definitely.
there is the problem. And that is the essence of the problem combined with an NIL era of where you now have negotiations going on with parents and stuff that because at
Yes.
the end of the day, you still want to field the best football team. And Boo Carter helps you be one of the best football teams. And you have to we had to deal with it with Nico last year because if we didn't have Nico last year either, like we did things in spite of him, but like it was a necessary evil. It was.
Yeah.
And now it's like this is the landscape of college football now. And I would love, to be honest, to kind of look into other schools and
Mm.
see how many are going through similar things. Because like you don't hear
Yeah.
about it until they're in the transfer portal, right?
That's a really
Like
good point.
we wouldn't know the drama that maybe Utah or somebody's dealing with right now. And there could be a lot of these situations going on.
It's definitely not just happening here. It's
Yeah.
happening all over the country. And you know what the big problem? And I just thought of this, dude. It opens up a tampering conversation because had
Oh, yeah.
Colorado not been tampering with Boo Carter, right? Had Dion not been putting these things in his mom's head, this
True.
situation likely never plays out. It likely never plays out because she went into the season and before the season convinced that she birthed the next Travis Hunter and that Deion Sanders and primetime Dion could make her son the next the next Travis Hunter. Because because there's no rules in college football. It's a crapshoot.
Chaos.
Anyone can do anything. And it's all because Dion put that in their head through tampering. I mean, that should be against the rules, but since there's no leadership in this sport, it's not against the rules. And by the way, it's just not the case. I just fully guarantee your son's not going to become Travis Hunter. I fully guarantee it because again, he was only given one side of the ball, which Travis Hunter had to prep for both sides of the ball during the week. Right now, Boo's doing one side, and he's not elite. So adding another side's not going to help that at all, especially when you go to a team that completely sucks like Colorado. So good luck with that, man. That's all I got to say on the situation, Dakota. You got anything else on it?
Yeah, my final thought is again with like the delusion aspect of like the evidence presented in front of you and you just ignoring it, like to your point of witnessing what happened with Nico, but then
Yeah.
also witnessing what just happened with Colton Hood, where he leaves Colorado and becomes first round caliber corner. You watch that happen and you're still like, no, best
I
case for me, I got to go there.
Yeah, exactly. And let me say this because what I think she didn't understand, she being Boo's mom, is that a guy like Colton Hood was not going to be a first round draft pick at Colorado. He wasn't. He was not going to get that development. He was not going to be given that opportunity. That's why he went to an actual good school, right? He went here, and now he will be a high overall draft pick. Travis Hunter, on the other hand, Dakota, was going to be a first round draft pick no matter
Forever.
where he played. He could have
Correct,
went
yeah.
anywhere in the country and he was going to be a first round draft pick. Dion did not make him a first rounder. The only thing Dion did was give him the opportunity to play both sides of the ball, which was very unique. And I don't know if any coach would have done that, but whether it was going to be a corner, whether it was going to be a wide receiver, Travis Hunter, no matter what route he went down in college football, was going to end up being a first round draft pick. That was not because of Deion Sanders.
Yeah, even if he had stayed at Jackson State, he would have been a first. Even with Dion there or not, like the dude was going to be a first round draft pick. Like the evidence was in the talent and the work ethic, like was pointed out earlier.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that's all I got on it. I think we're consensus wise. Yeah, it's time to move on.
It's time to
just
move
time.
on, man. And again, to your point earlier, it hurts the locker room more than it's helping right now. So just get him out of here, man. Just get him out of here. Moving on to a more positive topic for us because we are Alabama haters. Alabama lost yesterday, Dakota.
Yes, they did.
They lost. You got a couple of stats on that, I think, for me about their loss, but they lost to Oklahoma 23-21. I think it just a couple things, high level college football things. I think it proves that Oklahoma's legit. They are a legit team, a legit threat. But to me, more importantly, as a known Alabama hater, I think it proves they didn't hit on an elite coach. Kalen DeBoer is not. He has shown time and time again with a roster that's as talented as any in college football, and he inherited that. By the way, he didn't recruit that; he inherited that. He's proved time and time again that he just loses games that he probably shouldn't, and that makes him not an elite coach. And I'm happy about that because, again, I am an Alabama hater.
Yeah, I think a positive on the Oklahoma side is it does make the loss feel a little bit better because now Oklahoma, in a span of 3 weeks, they've won 2 road games in the SEC at Alabama and Tennessee, which is pretty impressive. Obviously, we should have had that game won, but it softens the blow a little bit to know that they are pretty good. Also, unrelated, but all the doors that always people are a little worried about being creaked open of Heupel returning to Oklahoma is kind of slammed shut right now with what Venables is doing this season. So no need to worry there. But yeah, Alabama. So some stats to throw out there because it's comical. Because especially in a season where we've just shot ourselves in the foot over and over again, it's funny to watch someone else do it. Because Alabama they had like almost twice as many first downs. Simpson had 326 passing yards to Mateer's 138. It was the largest gap in total yards for Alabama and a loss in like the last 30 years. So he's doing DeBoer's breaking records at Alabama is what he's doing. He's setting the new standard. Okay. It was his first home loss, which is crazy because he did lose like 4 road. He lost like every road game last year. So he can't, but yeah, overall, just a hilarious loss by them. Unfortunately, the thing that really sets up, we were talking about this yesterday when we were watching the game, is that, at Auburn.
Correct.
Like finally, because he's in there. If they lose one more game, they're done again.
They're
I'm
done.
sorry, 9-3, you're not getting in. And Auburn's gonna have everything to play for in that.
Everything.
And they're
Everything.
at home. I mean,
Dude.
that's got lost written all over it.
Dude, rivalry week of college football is much must watch. Just complete. If you have plans for some reason that day, cancel them. Obviously, you have Tennessee Vanderbilt, which is going to be huge. Michigan, Ohio State, the game, and then you have the Iron Bowl. It's going to be an elite week of college football. But I agree with you, man. That's what I have on the overlay. Bama's on the brink of elimination, and it's a fact. Like if they lose to Auburn, with how loaded the top of the playoff race is right now, they will be eliminated from the playoffs. So obviously, we're hoping for that. We're big time Auburn fans for the rest of the season. I hope Auburn somehow finds a way. And again, in the Iron Bowl, anything's possible. Let me tell you, I've watched several Iron Bowls in my life. Anything is possible in that game, and they will have everything to play for because they want to devastate Alabama. I'm going to catch up on the chat real quick here, Dakota, before we get back into it. Charles Webb is joining the chat. I don't know if I've seen your name in the chat, but he says bet several VFLs. Joey would throw 10 ITs. Thank you, Joey. I won $1,500. Well, congrats, buddy. I will say, if you watch the games, a lot of those weren't his fault, but that's neither here nor there. Daniel has also joined us in the chat. GBO, shout out Daniel. So appreciate y'all joining the chat. Feel free to chat it up and talk about Alabama taking this L. Listen, dude, any weekend where the Vols win and Alabama loses is a great weekend. That's a great weekend, man. And Florida lost, even though I was kind of rooting against Lane Kiffin in that game. Florida lost as well. So overall, it was a pretty good hate watch weekend, Dakota.
It really was. And like anybody wondering, like there's unless some chaos happens here the last week, there's just no the 9-3 conversation. I don't even think
it's
will
not
get
happening.
Opened up this year.
There
are tons of 2-loss teams sitting behind Alabama right now, waiting to just pounce on them, including Oklahoma now, who beat them. That will have to jump ahead of them, and then you've got BYU and Utah and Miami. Like there is just no way if they lose to Auburn.
How do you justify putting in a team, which it hasn't happened yet, but how do you justify putting in a team that lost 2 of their last conference games? I mean, they've lost 2 out of their last 3 games, and 2 of their last conference games they lost in a row. That team should not be in. And it's another year, man, where I'm frustrated as a Bama hater, where I'm looking at their schedule. I'm like, dude, they could have had 2 or 3 more losses. Like if teams just didn't, like South Carolina completely choked that game away against Alabama. So it's unfortunate. And listen, Alabama fans, there's no Alabama fans here tonight. They're at home crying in their pillows currently. But if you do somehow find this video, let me tell you, again, 2 things can be true. Okay. Y'all beat us. Congratulations. I can still be happy that you lost, though. I can still be happy that you lost. Anyway, the hate watching didn't stop, Dakota. The hate watching
it did not
stop. Okay. We have one last topic for you all today. And it's a fun one. It's a fun one for us, Dakota. Nico was out yesterday. Okay. I said before the season, Dakota, before the season started, as a guy whose dad is from Michigan, okay, my secondary team is the Michigan Wolverines. I know a lot of Vols fans won't like that. Listen, I'm all Vols all the way. If the Tennessee Vols played Michigan today, I would root for Tennessee to win by 100. But, okay, as a guy who has rooted for Michigan in the past, Ohio State is like my least favorite team in college football. It's like them in Alabama. I have never rooted for Ohio State in my entire life. But I said before the season that will change yesterday, because yesterday they played UCLA and they should have played Nico under center, but Nico had a concussion all of a sudden. Nico had a concussion from the Nebraska game, and no one watched the Nebraska game, so literally no one's going to be able to verify it. But apparently Nico got a concussion in that game and was out. The reason I question it, though, because his brother was also nowhere to be found in the game, Dakota. I looked everywhere, dude. I saw his brother listed as the backup pretty much everywhere I looked. Yet he wasn't playing. So that's a little curious. Why did neither of the brothers play yesterday?
It's so funny because I did the same thing. I looked up that Madden. I think his name's Madden Iamaliava was listed everywhere I could find. Like depth chart wise, showed him as the backup. He's not burned his red shirt yet either. So like,
Yeah,
there's no
correct.
excuse to being worried there. Yeah. The answer to your question is old Papa. Old Papa
Big Nick.
said we saw last year how it went in Columbus, and if we want any hope of salvaging the Iamaliava name, we cannot let our boys walk out onto that football field in the shoe. We
Exactly.
can't let it happen, man.
Dude, because what they know in their heads, Dakota, here's the thing. Here's what they know in their heads. They saw what happened with a good roster last year at Ohio State. Imagine with that UCLA roster. Imagine just how bad Nico would have looked. Exactly. People in the chat are already saying, Matt's in the chat saying, Daddy Nico said no. That's 100% right. Big Nick said no. He said, I'm not letting my boys go get embarrassed by Ohio State, which is exactly what happened in the game. Honestly, we talked about this before the game, Dakota. The funniest thing that could have happened yesterday is if the backup found a way to beat Ohio State and just proved how bad Nico really is. That would have been hilarious. At that point, I was actually rooting for UCLA and their fans, which their fans, listen, they have very few fans. They are few and far between, but the ones that did show up, that showed up in a couple of our Vol Talk videos, taking victory laps after you won 3 games in a row, you look like a complete idiot now. Just understand, like, those things still exist. Like, when you comment something on a YouTube video, it doesn't go away. It still exists forever. And you look like a complete idiot, in all fairness. So, yeah, I found it hilarious that Nico got a phantom concussion before the game that they knew he was going to get ran through.
And the funniest part, like, it sucks because I know we had all circled this game for our hate watching, pleasure. Like, this was going to be a fun watch, man. It was.
Yes.
To your point, that offense without the talent he had in Tennessee, it would have been. And I think, to be honest with you, I think Ohio State was probably licking their chops too with this dude transferring to the Big Ten. Like, oh, you think they were probably going to make his day a living hell as well.
Yeah.
But it's so comical, the outcome of like, because let's be honest, there's 0% chance UCLA coaching staff isn't fully aware of why he didn't play. You know what I mean? Like, the whole concussion thing that they're going to tell people, there's 0 chance that the staff believes that, right? Like, they're aware that, like, okay, our boy can't play this game. Like, the dad said he can't. Like, that is just such an embarrassing situation to be in as a coaching staff. And you asked for this by having the kid come out there, and that you knew what you were signing up for. And so that makes it even funnier where they're just sitting there like, well, I guess we're playing the 3rd string quarterback this week.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And it's pathetic, dude. Like you said, it's just a pathetic situation. And don't think we just missed it. Don't think we just missed it. We're not buying. We're not buying the concussion, and we're not buying that Madden, a guy who you targeted in the transfer portal isn't the backup. You played some random backup that literally no one's ever heard of. Like, it's very clear what happened here. Big Nick was trying to save his boys from embarrassment, but it's even more embarrassing that you did it, Big Nick. And by the way, enjoy some FCS school next year, because no Power 4 school is going to want Nico next year. He's not going to be at UCLA. We had a buddy at our watch party yesterday ask us that. Is he hitting the portal again? Yes, he will hit the portal again, but it's not because he wants to leave. It's because UCLA and their new coach is going to tell him and his dad to kick rocks. That's exactly what's going to happen. But yeah, it's just, complete embarrassment, Dakota.
That's the perfect word to put for it. I mean, and again, it's the validation in all of this still feels great because, we knew pretty much after the first week or two, we were like, okay, but it continuing to just affirm what we already knew and thought going into the season is just, it's never not sweet. It just feels great every week. And
it's a victory lap,
I mean,
man.
when he's
It is a
playing for
victory
UC
lap.
Irvine next year, we'll probably still tune in. I'll probably, if I get their games on ESPN Plus, I might tune in.
Yeah, dude. I mean, yeah, exactly. That's one thing I can guarantee out of this situation is that Nico is gonna be on ESPN Plus a lot next season. He's gonna have some ESPN Plus classics that no one's gonna watch, which he's used to because he played for UCLA this year and nobody watches those games.
Maybe get like one CW after dark. prime time game, you know?
Exactly. Playing Hawaii on the CW or something. It's gonna happen, dude. It's a complete embarrassing situation. And yeah, it's just kind of going full circle. It's just yet another situation where a talented kid, his career was ruined by his idiot parents in the new NIL era of college football.
100%. Yeah. And now we get to unfortunately live it a little bit again.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
well,
Round 2 with Boo Carter.
and
Love
it's
it.
definitely not going to be the last time with the
No,
way college
I mean,
football is.
like, and you made a great point earlier how these situations are probably happening all over the country, man. There's situations happening all over the country. So,
I mean, honestly, it opens up a world of like you almost need like a new staff member of like
yeah.
damage control type. Like, how do we like
Yes.
mitigating just like dealing with these situations to not let it affect the team and like them provide advice. Like it's almost like and like a stats guy, but it's like quantifying the ROI on a guy on the field versus the locker room cancer that he can be.
Yeah.
And the money that it costs for him to be there, like just
uh,
running the data, man. And it's like fourth down decisions where they're like, we got to cut him, let him
yeah.
go.
Wins above locker room cancer. That's the new stat. Wins above locker room cancer.
Wins above locker room cancer per, and then their per game cost with that.
Yeah.
You weigh it out.
And Nico and Boo are in the negatives, way in the negatives. Yeah, and overall, the last thing I'll say about the Nico situation, and we'll talk about this a lot more, trust me, just because we don't make the playoffs because our idiot kicker can't hit a kick doesn't mean that we didn't win this trade. We won this trade massively, dude. Massively. We would be fighting for bowl eligibility right now with Nico under center. That is a total fact. And imagine Nico and Boo Carter on the same roster, like for another year. It would have been a complete crap show this year, man.
Yeah, I don't know how many fans could. I mean, probably none, but how many fans could say we definitely win the Arkansas Mississippi State games without Joey and Nico out there instead?
Yeah.
I just no faith in that.
No faith in it whatsoever. And the chat's agreeing here. Matt's saying that Nico's transferring to Long Island University. I like that prediction. And then Rick's saying he's going full circle and he's going to transfer to App State. I don't think Nico and his family's stepping foot in the South again, but that would be absolutely hilarious. So yeah, I don't know, man. We'll talk about it more. Blake and I will, and maybe even Dakota too, on the season review. We'll have a whole discussion on the trade, the first de facto trade in college football history. But yeah, man, that was a good show. Appreciate everybody watching, tuning into the live show today. Like I said, Blake will be back on Tuesday. He wants to send his love to Vol Talk Nation. He wishes he could be here, but he can't at the moment. He will be back though for that Florida preview. We're looking forward to that Florida week. It's going to be a fun week. And as always, that will drop on Tuesday at 8:00 as a video premiere style video. If you don't watch the previews, it'd be cool if y'all did. Appreciate it if y'all do watch the previews. If you're hardcore and watch everything, but you can live chat on those preview shows. By the way, if you're a live chatter, we have several live chatters watch those preview shows and chat it up. Me and Blake sometimes drop in, but we can't always watch. But appreciate y'all watching those shows. And then, of course, we'll be back next Sunday at around 11:30. We're late sometimes. We were late again today. It kind of depends on the Sunday and what's going on, but we'll be back around 11:30 a.m. Eastern time next Sunday to review the Florida show or the Florida game. And appreciate y'all watching today. Appreciate everyone chatting, the likes, the subscribes. If you all could like and subscribe, especially subscribers, we really appreciate all of the subscribers. Again, we're close to 1K. We would love to hit that number. That's a really cool number to hit, and wouldn't happen without you all. So really appreciate it. But yeah, thanks for watching this video, and GBO.